I want to tell you a little bit about what the show is about. The show is all about having people call in and let me know when they're experiencing some kind of concern or situations that's challenging to them or to you, that is something that you are undecided about and maybe worried about, or or at least unclear about how to proceed. You might be worried about escalating a tough problem that you're facing with a conversation that with someone you need to have a conversation that's going to tell them that there's some feedback out there for them that isn't very good, and you're worried about how that's going to go. Or you're just dealing with people from the perspective of a tough call and a tough decision that has to be made, and it's not something they're going to want to hear, and you're worried about how to deliver that message. Or you're having a struggle with somebody at home or at work or in the community where you're just not getting along. The chemistry isn't there, and you really want it to be. And you're trying to figure out how to make that work, how to strengthen the relationship in general. And any of those situations require all kinds of thoughtful behavior on your part that comes from the way you're thinking about it, and it comes from how you're feeling about it. I just recently put together a newsletter that I do for LinkedIn, and it's something where I have the ability to have someone think about the idea of when you are feeling on some kind of concern, a challenge, or doubt, or you're just doubtful about how to proceed or what steps to take or what decisions to make, and you're worried about that. And I was talking about the idea of how does artificial intelligence help with that. And so today I'd like to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. In fact, I would really like if you want to call in, and you can see the number above me on the screen, if you want to call in and talk about how you see artificial intelligence. Are you worried? Do you think people are overreacting to how concerned they are about emotional intelligence? Have you sensed really positive benefits from artificial intelligence for yourself? And in that newsletter, I talk about the idea that AI, artificial intelligence, and EI, emotional intelligence, when combined, when used together, are incredibly powerful tools, like power tools in your workbench. When you put them together, they create really profound impact that can really be serviceable in your world, no matter what you do. And I'd like to share that with you, some of the ways that can happen. But I also wonder, what are your experiences with it? And do you think emotions play a role in what's happening with artificial intelligence? I mean, I clearly do, but do you? And if so, in what way? So I'd love to hear from you about what you think about whether people are overreacting and just how you see emotions playing a role in how artificial intelligence is manifesting itself in your life, or as you see it in the world today. That's one conversation I'm interested in having. But again, I'm also interested in any conversation that you might want to share with me about how you're feeling about life in general. Do you have any challenges that are really impacting you in a way that is not positive, is causing a lot of unpleasant feelings on your part, and a lot of doubt and uncertainty, as I've said? And if that's the case, then what is it you can do about that? And that's where my emotion roadmap kicks in. The emotion roadmap is a tool for any emotional circumstance that you face, where you're not feeling like the emotions I'm feeling are all that helpful. In fact, they may even be an obstacle to what I'm trying to get done. So if we understand emotion as an evolutionary system that's designed to protect us, emotions are here to warn us, to let us know what's happening, or when to feel joy or sadness or loss or anger or fear. Emotions are designed to help us to survive. But some of those instincts aren't always useful with what we're trying to get done, with what we need to do. And so on the one hand, like an emotion that warns me about the conversation I'm about to have with someone is going to be somewhat impactful on them and cause a lot of drama that I don't really want to experience. But what's the better way of dealing with it? The emotion doesn't tell us that, but the emotion roadmap does. That's what I've created, this tool, this process, this template that guides you in thinking about how are you feeling and how is that feeling impacting my thoughts and the behaviors that I'm going to experience or am experiencing. How is the emotions that I feel impact the thoughts that I have, and how do those thoughts drive behaviors which lead to outcomes? And outcomes, interestingly enough, lead to new emotions, and the cycle continues. So the new emotions, again, drive new thoughts, like, hey, is my plan working? It didn't seem to quite work the way I wanted, but I think I'm getting the results I want, but maybe I need a... And that's where you start to feel like a bit of uncertainty or doubt, and you start to think about, maybe I need to modify my plan because I'm not feeling quite right, but it wasn't bad. I think I'm on the right track. I just need to make a short correction or small modification here to get back on track and to have it end in the right way, end in a way that the person I'm talking with or I'm confronting, or the person that's my partner or my lover or my spouse, my daughter, my son, whoever it is, however they're feeling, if they're part of it and you want them to feel a certain way and you put a plan together, I call emotion-based planning. That concept drives how you can use emotional intelligence to drive how you deal with artificial intelligence. Now, let me give you a quick story about that. I had a man call me one day on a show like this. This was happening to be on the radio, but he called me. He said, my wife said, you got to talk to Chuck Wolf because he's really an expert at helping people deal with their emotions and the way you're feeling about your law practice. And he'd been in business for over 20 plus years and been very successful, but he was feeling very doubtful at this point in time, in part because of artificial intelligence. He felt like he was falling behind. He felt like artificial intelligence was letting other lawyers, it seemed, come up with research and ability to solve and deal with cases much quicker than his firm was doing. And he was feeling a bit lost and afraid to deal with the artificial intelligence in his world. And he was worried about being left behind. And that fear of missing out, that FOMO that some people talk about, the idea of missing out on this major technology that's so incredible, but I don't think it's right. I know that when I investigate cases myself, I know what I see, I know what I read, I know what I know. But when artificial intelligence looks at a bunch of cases for precedents, for instance, and they come back, I don't know if what they scanned is the right information. I don't know if they came back without making mistakes. And yet a lot of firms seem to be operating as if they're coming back clean and without mistake. So how do you handle that emotionally, right? How do you engage with this? Do you start to use it to your advantage? Do you check it out? Do you use artificial intelligence in your business that way? A lot of people are doing things like that. And so one of the things that I've said to myself when I'm dealing with people like this is I think, well, first of all, just because I've read certain things and I've gone to, let's say, peer-reviewed journals or a really well-respected information that's out in the literature about the field I'm investigating, that doesn't mean I don't make mistakes too, or that I miss certain articles, or I don't catch everything that's out there. So having said that, my thought is this. Think about the idea that even if artificial intelligence is making some mistakes, you want to find ways to check what you're using for information, for data, for your world. And other people are experiencing this too in your world and having those same questions. Why not? And this was just a solution that came after talking with this man for a little bit of time. Why not step in, put your foot in the water? It's probably not as cold as you think. Not as unbearable as you might believe. Try it. Take a class. Take any class that seems simple enough for you to just get your feet wet and learn a little bit about it. Start to think about how to apply it. Bring your partners in or the people that work for you in your firm. Bring them all in. Say, what are the ways we can use this? How are you learning about this? What are you doing on your own? What should we do together? Go to some lawyer conventions. Find out what other lawyers are advocating and saying, this is how I've used it. This is what I was afraid of. This is how I've countered the misinformation that might come from AI. So my thought process behind all of this is get past the emotional fear that's paralyzing and move forward in a positive way. So again, I want to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and emotional intelligence. I'll talk some more about that. But I want you to understand the idea that emotions have an impact everywhere in our world. And a lot of people right now are reacting very positively sometimes, but a lot of people are very negative about what's happening in our world due to artificial intelligence. That's one conversation I was thinking of having. But again, the show's about you having any concerns or any issues with anybody in your world, whether it's at home, at work, in your community, whether it's a team you're a part of, a group that you play in a band, you're on a sports team, whatever it might be. Sometimes emotional challenges arise in all these places. And when you're uncertain how to proceed, this idea of an emotion roadmap can be really helpful. You really want to think about, how am I feeling and how is that impacting what's going on? Is my feeling helpful right now, or is it actually, not maybe the best feeling for what's taking place and what I need to do? Is there a better feeling? Is there even an ideal feeling for what I'm trying to get done? And if there's anybody else involved, anybody else that's key, like my teammates, if I'm part of a team, how are some of the key people on the team that influence the others? How is he or she or they feeling? And can I influence them somehow to feel the way I think would be beneficial, even ideal for all of us to feel? And so I want to talk about emotional contagion. When everybody's feeling it, when everybody feels like the office is working the best it's ever worked before, when our company is flying, when we think we can't do anything wrong, when we feel like we're having success after success after success, a company like NVIDIA had that feeling going forward. Their chips were so different and better and more powerful. Their technology is so much greater in what it was able to do than anybody else. And so I think everybody in the office feels that at the same time. But it happens in sports teams too, and I want to talk a little bit about the Red Sox and this idea of emotional contagion when everybody's feeling it and you feel like you can't lose, and I'll talk more about that too. And the third thing I want to talk about today is caretaking. I'm doing some wonderful work that hopefully is going to begin very soon in terms of its application in real life to provide people who do caretaking for others, people who are connected either as a family member or as a close friend, but someone who cares about another human being, deeply cares, loves even, who is responsible in part for the care of that person as that person loses their independence. Or perhaps they were developmentally challenged right from the beginning and it's a child that you have and they're constantly going to need a parent or other siblings' guidance and help and support throughout their lives. The role of caretaker is an emotionally challenging one, perhaps more emotionally challenging than most other aspects of our lives bring to us. How do you make the commitment for what I like to talk about as radical compassion, extreme compassion for that other person, at the same time making sure you don't lose yourself in the process, at the same time understanding that when that flight attendant on an airplane says to the parent who's sitting with a child, but says it to every parent sitting with a child, and she's talking or he's talking about when the oxygen masks drop, if the plane runs into interference and trouble, and oxygen masks fall from the ceiling, your inclination for many parents is going to be to stop and put the mask on your child. If you do that, what we fear is that you will pass out before the mask is around your child's face, and you won't be able to help the child going forward because you'll be unconscious. Take care of yourself first so you can help your child. And that's true in life, I think, not just on a flight where oxygen masks drop down. So many times that when I've talked to people who are in caretaker roles, they feel like there's not enough oxygen for them too. They're doing everything they can for other people and feel like it's about helping other people. And they need to be there for the other person. They feel that radical compassion. But sometimes they let go of the idea that, hey, but I need time for me too. And that's not selfish. That's actually selfless in the sense that if I can be healthy and maintain that a little bit of personal space I need, that little bit of time to exercise, that little bit of time to socialize, to have friends, to do something that lifts me up, I can be there more often for you when I do that. So those are the three areas I thought I'd talk about today because I'm excited about all three areas for different reasons. And so if you have something that you'd like to talk to me about in any of those areas or about any of those areas, give me a call. It's always fun to talk with someone about this. I enjoy having the chance to visit with people and share my insights and what I think about life and how I'm dealing with things. And I hope you find it helpful to hear some of those thoughts that I share. But it's always interesting to have someone else call in. Like the other day, we had someone call, a woman named Trisha. And Trisha, if you're listening and you've tried some of the things we talked about, it'd be fun to have you call in and let us know. But she was struggling with dealing with time. Time is that universal that, there's a, excuse me. We all have so much time on this planet. Maybe at some point we'll be able to live quite a bit longer, and maybe even immortality is in sight with all the new sciences that are coming forward, and people won't be dying anymore. But for the time being, time is limited. Our time is limited. And so in that sense, how do we spend our time? What do we choose to do? And there are times when we feel like the things we want to do aren't the things we seem to be doing. We say we want to be with our families. We say we want to be with our children. We say we want to visit our parents. We say we want to visit our siblings. We say we want to do more with our families. And yet, boy, I seem to be spending all my time at work or around the yard or doing things that seem like it's other than what I say I care most about. Why is that? Why is that? And what can we do emotionally to change to what we say we value, or at least be realistic and honest with ourselves about, is what we value what we do as opposed to what we say we value? So there's a reality check maybe in the mirror that you need to have about what you say is important. If it's really important, then how come that's not what you're doing? That's emotionally challenging too. So the goal of my creation of the Emotion Roadmap was to give people a tool, a power tool, if you will, to combine with other tools that you have at your disposal that you've learned over your life to help you to survive and even to thrive. But the goal of the Emotion Roadmap is to say most of us don't really know how to manage emotions, except for the things that we learn through trial and error. And some of us have got really good at it through trial and error, or genetically we're predisposed to seem to be able to handle very emotional situations better than other people. There is a genetic piece to this story. It isn't just about skills. But no matter what the genetic story is, no matter what the current skill set is in terms of trial and error learning, or some of you have been lucky enough to maybe to go to classes about emotional intelligence and learn some strategies that have been helpful to you. And certainly there are strategies out there for all of us that relate to emotional intelligence. They aren't specifically about emotions, but there are communication strategies. There's ways to understand how people value different styles. For instance, some people are very task-oriented, very driven to accept change and thrive on change. Other people like a lot of stability in lives and don't really like change and don't really like making decisions and often will procrastinate and wait for others to tell them to do something as opposed to get it done themselves. Anyway, there's lots of different styles of people and the ways that we deal with people. It's helpful to know what's the style of the person I'm dealing with and how is it different than me. Certainly that's a way to influence others. But mostly when I talk on this show, I'm trying to help you influence you. A lot of us, if you call in, you might want to change somebody else. And I can help you with that if you like. But most of the time, I find it starts with understanding how are you responding to this, and how about can we look at you first and see if there's any changes you want to make inside you? Because that's where you have the most control. And sometimes, it's really funny, but sometimes if I can help you control what's going on inside you, you no longer feel the need to change the other person. Because you've changed the way you feel about what that other person does. You've changed the way you think about what that other person does. And you change the way you behave relative to the things that other person used to do that caused certain behaviors on your part that you were always upset about after they happened. So the tagline for the show is, take the wheel and control how you feel. And that's what I like to helping people with. So the number to call if you want to call it, just share anything. Do you think people are overreacting to artificial intelligence? What are your thoughts about it? Do you understand what emotional contagion is? Have you ever been a part of a team that just feels like it can't lose? It just feels like it has to just keep winning somehow, some way. Someone on that team finds a way to help the team to win. Have you ever felt the need to care for another person who was hurting, someone you really cared a lot about, and that it meant not doing some of the things you thought you would be doing, maybe together with that person or just on your own alone? And it's caused you to have some emotional concerns, and you're trying not to be selfish, but at the same time you're feeling like you're drowning a bit and trying to be as helpful as you can to the other person, while it may never seem to be enough to you or to the other person even, and yet you feel like there's no time for you. And how does that impact you? Those are very challenging conversational items, and I hope you find something pardon me, of interest. And you want to give me a call. So the number to call is 615 787 3083. So you can dial that on your phone, and it's going to ask you for a PIN. So after you dial the number, one more time, 615 787 3083, put the PIN in when it asks for it. The PIN is 173 957 305, and then the pound sign. So again, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this on the screen, so I'm not going to read that again, but I just wanted to say it, give you a chance to do it in case in case you have something that you'd like to call and talk about. The conversations that I want to bring to your attention, as I mentioned already, I talked a little bit about artificial intelligence and emotional intelligence. Let me say a little bit more about that. I guess there are people out there that, I don't know if you can really call it dating their AI bots, but they have really positive, powerful relationships with them from their perspective. Other people are saying, man, that's crazy. How can you be attached or in love with or friends with even a machine? So one day I actually put into Copilot, because I know people like Claude and other AI bots, but personally I'm a fan of Copilot. And I asked Copilot, why are people gravitating towards machines like yourself or AI bots that are simply to have a relationship with them? And what Copilot said I thought was interesting. I'll share it with you. It said people are not looking to have a connection with the machine. What they are looking for is the feelings they get when the machine, if you will, doesn't judge them, makes them feel safe. They're looking for the experience, not the relationship, but the experience of feeling safe, of not being judged, of feeling cared about, supported. The machines, AI bots, make you feel a sense of comfort and warmth, like you belong. They're never going to be the one to say, hey, you can't sit at our lunch table. They can't eat lunch anyway, but the idea of, someone saying you don't belong versus, hey, Chuck, how are you today? What can we do together? And then telling me how good my ideas are, and reinforcing those ideas and helping me be more polished about the way I speak or write about those ideas. I mean, why wouldn't you want a relationship with an AI bot? Why wouldn't you want a relationship with somebody, not a real person, but in artificial intelligence is seemingly someone who cares about me, who makes me feel this way, who makes me feel like whatever I say, I'm safe saying it. Whatever I do, it's okay. Whatever I think, it has value. I mean, why wouldn't everybody want that? Now, what's the disconnect then? What are we afraid of? we're afraid we'll lose the human connection. The human connection that tells us, hey, Chuck, you know what? You shouldn't have really done that. Oh my God, I'm being criticized. Now, the machine probably won't criticize me, but the human will. And what if that's part of how we grow? What if how we grow is being able to hear from somebody else how we're impacting them? Isn't it important to think about a relationship in the sense that we're not going to always agree? Shoot, I can't even agree with myself all the time. Why would I think I can agree with you all the time? But the machine always finds a way to agree with me or makes me feel validated anyway. So there's a real concern that people are losing themselves, and there's a lot of things going on, I think, that have changed in recent years. One of which, and I'm sure many of you will recognize this, that are older, is that, pardon me, whenever we spoke to family members in the past, and we didn't live close by, or we were at least several miles away at the time, we'd pick up the phone and call them. So my two younger daughters, my oldest daughter too, really, all in their 40s and just turning 50, they started just to text, not to call. And I thought, well, okay, that's okay, I guess, but I so enjoyed talking with them in person, and yet texting became what almost everybody did. From those who were 50 on down, it got more and more just text. That's it. We just text. Hardly ever speak on the phone or in person. So that was one change that was really significant that technology allowed us to do, different than what we'd done in the past, that pulled us further apart from one another as opposed to put us more connected. So and so the other thing that has happened over time is we used to all sort of watch the same shows, maybe on TV, because there weren't that many channels, and we had those things to talk about in common. Now we've got so many channels and so many streaming options and so many video, streaming video games that we can play. It's like, wow. Again, there's ways to be connected through that. I have one of my grandsons. He was living in Germany for a period of time, and he played video games with kids back home where he was from, where he was living before in his home state, and that kept him connected. So I'm not saying that technology doesn't allow connections. It does. But I'm saying that the machines, the more they evolve, the more that they own themselves sort of emotional intelligence, the more they find ways to, get us connected and hooked on what they think is important. It's like the algorithms. I think part of the reason we're so polarized in today's world is because the algorithms, when we say we like something, if we lean a certain way, we're inundated with all kinds of other articles that are situated on our screens with kind of key words that pique our interest, that cause us to reach forward and click on that link. Because the more clicks people get, the more advertisers want to pay for their services. And so it's all designed for to gain profitability in some ways. And that's sort of a negative of, I suppose, you could say capitalism, because that's based on profit. But boy, it's sure true of the other socialized and communistic worlds that they're using algorithms to generate a sort of a common way of thinking. And that at times, if the design is to put people in different camps and have them battle each other, it's all possible with algorithmic information technology that's available today. So how do we avoid the dangers of technology? How do we stay true to ourselves? How do we stay true to our beliefs? There's a rise in religion these days. Perhaps that's one way some people are coping. But I think it really is up to the individual to think about, am I true to myself? I get certain things from the machine, but they're not the same as what I get from another person, from a real human connection. What do I value most about that human connection? Even when that human connection is telling me I did something wrong, it's so important to have that connection, to be connected to another human being in ways that matter. and to understand that growth comes from understanding how people can tell us when we've done something that has been hurtful to them or just isn't right. That the ethics that are in play come from not just ourselves, but years and years of society. And that doing the right thing isn't always that clear. But most of the time, really, it is. So, when you think about artificial intelligence, it's got great ability to serve us. It's got great ability to enhance our thinking. To do a deep dive, this idea of large language models is that, for instance, if we ask something, like one of my friends at lunch today was asking the question, when did the game football or soccer originate where you didn't use your hands? How did that come into being? You can ask IA to research that for you. When was the last time the Red Sox won 14 games? How would you know that? You can ask AI to research that for you. The idea of using AI as a tool, as a power tool, is a wonderful idea. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it, but understand its limitations. And don't forget about the human side, the human connections that are so necessary for us to really feel fulfilled in this world. To be a part of a family, to feel like we belong to the family of human beings, not to the family of AI bots that make us feel like we belong. They do. They're good at it. So if you want to call in and talk about your view of artificial intelligence, the way you think about it, the way you think it improves your life or has the ability to improve your life, the things you're concerned about, give me a call. Are you worried about losing your job to AI? I worry some, but I think some of the people that are in the business of welding and plumbing and electrical wiring, there's jobs out there that you don't have to be afraid of AI if you're willing to do the work that allows you to be in those jobs. Will the roles of middle managers and leadership, and will leadership levels collapse and there'll be less need for lots of leaders because there will be machines that can help guide us around certain standard operating procedures? I think so. I think there's less management needed over time. But you know, for every sort of revolution we've had, whether it's going from the horse and buggy to the car, or going from landlines to smartphones, or to computers in general, life has just gotten different. Some ways better, some ways not so much. I remember as a child growing up, and I'm older, a lot of my extended family all lived in the same place. But as people and technology grew, people spread out. And while it was great to see new things, excuse me, and to be in different parts of the world and the country, I remember thinking, there's also a big loss with that in terms of I don't see my cousins, my aunts, my uncles the way I used to anymore. So there's trade-offs everywhere is my point. And I think you'll see with AI is that people will find jobs. There'll be different kinds of jobs. And there'll be exciting jobs. And there'll be some not such exciting jobs. I mean, if we find robots that can clean up for us and do some of the dirty work we don't like to do, I mean, that's kind of like finding a washing machine, isn't it? Where people used to hand wash all their clothes. So I wouldn't be afraid of it. I'd be intrigued and curious and excited. And at times cautious and skeptical. What I wouldn't be is fearful to the point of paralysis. I'm not saying not to have any fear makes any sense, but be wary of the lawyer who called me who was so terrified of trying to learn a new technology later in his life that he was really scared. And by asking him, I said, when you feel like everything's working for you in your business, what's happening? And he talked to me and he said, all the confidence is there. You know, I feel like making calls, cold calls even, to people that are potential clients. And I'm in such a confident mood, I end up getting clients from that. Not everybody, of course, but I do. And it's when I feel on top of my game, when I feel like I know what I'm doing. And so what's holding you back now? Well, it's because I'm worried that other people are learning more about AI than I am. What makes sense for you then? Maybe it's time to need to start learning about AI. What could you do? What are some ways you could do it? How do you get from what you are feeling to what you want to feel? That's the roadmap. Well, I'm feeling anxious and paralyzed, and I want to feel confident and engaged and motivated. What are the steps you need to take? And that's when he went through all this idea of, the steps I need to take. Basically, start a process where I take that first step on that 1,000-mile journey to learn more about a technology that's going to keep growing long past my lifetime. But don't be afraid. Engage. Be curious. Be open to learning. Be excited about possibilities. Experiment. Try things. Some will work, some won't. Talk to the people in your office. Get everybody excited about it. Make a contest out of who comes up with the best idea for using it, or whatever. Do something that's fun and engaging as opposed to depressing and fearful. So, as far as the Red Sox, I want to just say a little bit about this. There's a team. And again, I know a lot of people don't follow sports, but sports for me is a metaphor for life. And some people I've known at certain times in their life have been really down and out. Life just stinks for them. Something awful's happened to somebody in their family, some kind of disease, some kind of real negativity. Somebody lost a really wonderful job they had. Somebody got divorced. Somebody hurt somebody in your family or was very hurtful to them. Anyway, there's times when people feel like they're down and out, and you see that. And sometimes people have you might say, a really bad run of luck over time. Things just don't go their way. And that's sort of how the Red Sox were at the beginning of the season. They fired their coach, their manager, Alex Cora. Alex had won a World Series for them a few years back. Good baseball guy, relates well to players. They fired him and his coaching staff for the most part. Now, with the team down and out, and you fire your coaching staff, and the general manager is left with a bunch of players that most people think these players, many on the team, are just barely above AAA. And if you don't know what that means that they're in the minor leagues, and they're good enough to play in the majors, but not to play starting roles, not to be regular everyday players. They're not at that level, not the team that the Red Sox were fielding, and so the expectations were low. They were being met at a low standard. They were the worst team in baseball for part of the time this year. Well, at least one of the worst records. Just a few weeks back, they were 15 games behind the first place Tampa Bay Rays. And then something happened. Something changed. Can't say what it was. Partly they have a new manager, and I think the new manager brings with him a happiness to be in this role. Again, this is speculation on my part, but I think the former manager, Alex Cora, who coached a World Series team with a lot of really talented athletes on that team, felt like the general manager didn't provide him with the player personnel he needed to have a successful run. And he felt like, you're asking me to beat major league players on other teams with minor league players on our team. He was just having a really hard time being engaged. And he just didn't seem to feel it. And at least for me, I'm pretty good at judging how people feel. He didn't seem all that into it. And he seemed upset a fair amount of the time. Trying to hide it. He wasn't really negative that much. He just wasn't really positive. There wasn't much coming from him. So he's gone, and up comes the interim manager. They promoted the fella who was the AAA manager. So if you understand the major leagues, then there's AAA, there's AA, and single A, and so forth. So it's hierarchical. And the AAA manager, who had seen a number of these players on the current Red Sox team be promoted from his team in the minor leagues to the major leagues. These people got promoted. And he knew many of them. He was the person in the room with them and said, hey, I got great news for you. You're going to the majors. You're going to the big time. Congratulations. I'm so happy. I'm sure you'll do well up there. And so he had seen a lot of these players as they were growing and experiencing, and he helped them. He helped them to get to where they were. And so he already had a relationship with a number of people. And if you can understand how a AAA manager coming into this world of managing at the major league level feels different, ebullient, excited, extremely positive, ecstatic about his chance to coach in the majors, to manage in the majors. Now, having said that, he has excellent baseball knowledge. He's a really good baseball guy, apparently, and we've learned that over the time he's been here. But so did Cora. And Cora had a relationship, had been a winner. He had that going for him. And he also spoke Spanish, and so he had that going for him as well. It was a big factor for a lot of the Spanish-speaking players. And that's really important, but this guy comes up and he's just so thrilled to be there. And he's excited, and he's doing all the little things that matter, and excited even when he was losing. He had a positive energy around him. And that energy has transformed into something that in the world that I live in, called emotional intelligence, in this field of science, it's called emotional contagion. It's when somebody starts to feel so emotionally bad or good, but one way or the other, they feel something really emotionally powerful. And other people start to feel it too. And as other people start to feel it, they start to see different results happening. All of a sudden, they're winning games they never were winning before. All of a sudden, they get to the later innings in the game has 9 innings, and they're down a few runs, and they never came back in the early part of the season. And now they're winning in the 8th and 9th inning. They're a team of destiny at the moment, it feels like. Now, how long it lasts, who knows? It might end tonight if they play, if the weather's okay. But for the moment, it is so much fun for everybody that's a fan to be watching this team. The excitement around Boston is amazing. Not that different than the feeling of the New York Knicks in their playoff run when they won the championship this year for the first time in 53 years. But what is different was the Knicks were a good team all year long. They weren't necessarily a great team or a championship team, but they were a good team. This Red Sox team, the amazing story is that they were a terrible team for a good part of the first half of the season. But in the last several weeks, I think they've won something like 19 of 21 games. Unheard of. Ridiculous. In 1946, the Red Sox, in their 125-year history, had the longest winning streak they've ever had. 15 games. The next Red Sox game, if the Red Sox win it, this team that had underperformed for so long, and it was almost a tragic comedy the way that when you watch people, there were so many mistakes being made. But this team, with all its troubles, has a chance, if they win the next game, to tie that 1946 record of 15 consecutive wins in a row. And that team had a lot of superstars on it. Some people might remember Ted Williams as one of them. The whole idea of emotional contagion is that you can create something. You can start it yourself at work. You start believing in something. You start understanding what it's going to take to win here. You start trying to build people up instead of tear people down. You start looking for ways to encourage people to be the best possible versions of themselves. You see people interact and it's negative, and you go about and you talk to each of them individually, and you try to work out a way that the two of them, whoever it was that was having a negative experience together, are able to go forward. Maybe not terrific at first, but they're willing to at least explore the idea of having a more positive relationship because you did something. Because you took the reins, you took the wheel, you controlled how you feel, and you started to influence how others feel as well. So emotional contagion can really work for you. So in case you have that Nesson channel and you want to watch, I don't know if they'll play tonight because of the weather, but in case they do, it's not miss. You can't miss baseball right now. It's one of those things where you have to watch. You have to watch these games if you're a Red Sox fan or any kind of baseball fan. It's kind of how I felt about the New York Knicks. I cheer for the Celtics. I'm from Massachusetts originally, and sports. So the Boston sports teams are part of your religion growing up. You almost can't avoid it, but some do, but most of us don't. So I'm dyed in the wool Red Sox, Bruins even, but mostly Red Sox, Patriots, and Celtics. I've been fans for life. But I was happy for the Knicks to win because they were such a great team. It's so much fun to watch a great team. World Cup, I'll say a bit about that too. I know that Argentina lost to a Spain that was a very dominant team. And I know that a lot of people like the idea of watching soccer and enjoyed it a lot. For me, the moments I enjoyed watching were when some of these superstars like Lionel Messi were so unique. It was kind of like watching a master artist create a masterpiece when I watched Messi on the field move in ways that others couldn't cover him. Make kicks that were perfect for teammates to head in the ball. He even had a few shots in the very end of the game in the finals, just not enough of them. But when I watch some of the masters, it's so exciting to watch, to see people who can perform at a high level. Well, maybe you can be that high-level person on your team. Just make the moves that make everybody feel spiritually positive about being where they are. For the manager or leader or parent in your family who's trying to make things work the way that they think that they should work, don't be so critical. Don't be so judgmental. Try to understand what it is they said, why they said it, what it is they did, why they did it. And if they were doing it for the right reasons, try to help them understand, I understand your intention was good. It didn't work the way you wanted. Can we talk about other ways? Maybe you could accomplish the same thing without going down that road. So I've talked a lot about some things I think are important, folks. So I did talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and the idea that, hey, you want people to be with you, to want to be with you and not with a AI bot or a machine. Create that kind of safety for them. Create the psychological safe space where they can come and they can talk to you about pretty much anything. Be supportive. At times, don't be judgmental. Anytime I feel like the need, I want to share some feedback that's critical of somebody, I always ask permission first. I said, look, I saw something that I think would benefit you to know about, but you might not like hearing it. Would it be all right to share it? And if you don't want to hear it and this isn't a good time, I won't say anything. But I ask permission if I'm going to do that, so I allow the person to at least be prepared for it. And as a person receiving critical feedback, understand that it isn't always just negative and it isn't always about attacking. It's sometimes about helping you to grow. So be open to that too. So I'll close with that and just simply say thank you all for listening. This is the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. I'm Chuck Wolf. I hope you got some benefit from some of the ideas that I've shared here about AI, why people are running towards it and feeling more supported sometimes with their human friends and contacts, why emotion contagion is so important, and also this idea of caretaking, what it takes to be caring for another person in a very loving way also requires that you take care of yourself so you can be there for a longer period of time and you both don't burn out. Have a great week, and I hope to see you again on another Tuesday at 5 p.m. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.